The Cherokee removal from the USA. In 1821, Mexico declared independence from Spain. And then a little further after that, they allowed Americans to come over to what is now known as Texas for work. But what Mexico didn't expect was for the Americans to be so greedy for anything, for resources, anything they thought had a little bit of value. So in 1856, Mexico and the Americans went to war, and that gave us the Battle of Alamo. Even though Americans won the war, Mexico still lost. And with that loss, they lost their land. Now, when we talk about the Cherokee Indians and all the other tribes that were affected by the Cherokee removal, we have to think about who was in office whenever we're thinking about Tilly, and then what was the cause. For instance, Andrew Jackson, he was a greedy man. If it was yours, or you had something more bigger with more value to it, he wanted it. It's like a little kid when you got a piece of candy, he wants it. But when you think about Hedges, he gives us the option to have a myth or a century when we think about our history. And I feel as though that century was the greatest deal for the Cherokee Indians. But for us, looking back, it's mythic. We don't get the full story. We didn't get the one-on-one sessions of talking to the people who were affected. And I also feel like this war, this massacre, because I wouldn't call it a war because the Cherokee Indians didn't really have a chance to fight back. I think it was just trying to give him a means to show that he was strong and powerful, but in reality, it makes him look weak. According to Fannin, he gave us two options: colonization and decolonization. Both were present during the Trail of Tears. The Americans wanted to control the Indians, their land, and everything that was going on the West Coast made me think of colonization because they wanted to be a step ahead of everyone. And whenever they decided to decolonize, that's whenever they became greedy and sneaky and tricking the Indians to sign treaties that they may not have understood. According to one of my sources, Andrew Jackson disobeyed court orders to leave the Indians alone and to mind his own business and carry on and let them do what they wanted to do. And so he took it upon himself to trick a Cherokee chief into signing the Treaty of New Echota. I'm not sure if I said that word correctly. And what the treaty did was cover and agreed that a small portion of the Cherokee Indians were able to relocate to the East Coast and let the Americans move to the West Coast in their place. But what he didn't do was do this agreement, this treaty with all the Indians, the mass majority. He just focused on this one section. So whenever word got around that they had to move because of one chief, they were not happy. And they knew that they couldn't fight the Americans because of their progression and different weapons and size and a whole number of things. But they did what they could. But when Americans came with their guns and their weapons and stuff, they ran. But can you blame them? Whenever they ran to the East Coast to where it was dry. There wasn't really anything good going on here. Because remember, during this time, even though slavery was supposed to have ended, it was still going on. So the Indians and everyone who was in those areas are still obligated to the things that slavery offered, whether it was publicized or secret. Earlier, I mentioned the chief that was tricked into signing the treaty which gave land to a portion of the Cherokees. And my sources tell me that his name was Sharp Knife. And the authorities of Georgia, which is the location of the court that told them not to mess with the Indians, passed a law in 1830. And it said it prohibited the white men from entering Indian country after March 1st of 1831 without a license from the state. Now, for those of you who don't know, a license from the state was not easy to get, but maybe that was just for the black man or for everyone else who was brought here against their will. A year or so later, on March 3rd of 1832, there was another case in the court. Worcester versus Georgia. And what this did was it declared all of the laws that Georgia had with the Indians unconstitutional, null, void, and it wasn't in effect. And then, on top of that, he issued a formal mandate 2 days later, not a week, not a month, not a few hours, but 2 days later, ordering the state superior court to reverse its decision. Wow. Some court system we have here, huh? In conclusion, we see how the Cherokee removal and the series of events that occurred prior to it and after has shaped the nation into how it is today. From the Battle of the Alamo all the way down to now, to be honest. And we also see how greed can destroy a nation with its people, and how having the wrong person in office or in control can also lead to a major downfall.